MSME Growth Fund, which is dedicated to the growth of small and medium enterprises with a corpus of 10,000 crores. What is the significance of this announcement and how the SMEs will benefit out of it?
Thank you, sir. Good morning to all. Actually, sir, I should first thank Honorable Prime Minister for addressing inspiring MSMEs, focusing on manufacturing, cost cutting, quality, R&D. And also, I'd like to thank Government of India for continued focus approach for MSME growth. I think budget after budget, after the last 4 years, we have given a lot of tremendous change. Particularly, MSME problem is their cash flow. When cash flow is stuck, the unit is not viable, something like that. I think we have seen last 4 years, first is 45 days mandatory payment, and also aggressively pushing CGTMS without collateral loan. That is, I think this year their expert release about 4 lakh crore. And also supply through government e-market. That also of the MSME, without going anywhere, they can, visiting customers, they can do business with government organization. And also trade platform. And now in this budget, SME Growth Fund 10,000 crores and SRI Fund 2,000 crores. So this actually, you have done very good job, sir. Actually, reaching out different clusters before budget preparation, I think you have collected a lot of inputs. I think that is reflecting in this budget. We are thankful to you for you and Secretary, sir. And also, sir, this getting fund, you have addressed almost this growth fund. See, for example, when I started my business about 45 years back, I used to go for loan to 10,000 rupees. Then went to 25,000, 50,000, 1 lakh, 10 lakh. Now several hundred crores bank limit we are having. So like that, I used to spend at least 20% time going to bank. Now it is not necessary. Online MSME can apply loan and get it. As far as specifically on this growth fund, sir, it's not like loans. It's equity funding. Does not create immediate repayment pressure on the SMEs. Reduces financial stress of MSME and strengthens capital success. It enables capital capacity expansion, technology upgradation, and long-term growth financing beyond debt. Sir, this generally MSME has a problem. They mostly in proprietorship or partnership. I think the corporate restructure is very much needed. Their ferries, we have to pay corporate tax. We have a lot of compliance. We have to have board meeting. I think recently the Act amendment, I think it's making up to 100 crore turnover. Small companies registration, and they can have only two board meeting. Very simplified. I think this time, I think many SMEs, because they are not corporatized, they lost opportunity of manufacturing. Companies were given about 15% income tax, concession tax of 15%. That also they missed it. I think now it is a must for MSME to move towards corporatization. I think it is not easy. I think reforms by Cabinet Secretary and Niti Aayog, a lot of effort. It's ongoing. These reforms are going on. So this will also enable simplification process. They need not worry. And also, it will also transform them going for not taking larger contracts, participate in big government tenders, deal with big corporates, MNCs. See, this will also, and it will move towards SME IPOs. This will also avoid SME going for informal finance. It costs around 48-50%. So when they don't know, but urgently this will enable them to have total capital adequacy so that go for bigger loan. And also, this will also help them to attend seasonal spike in demands, export-linked growth. Often they struggle due to limited capital. This also will enable a lot of the Prime Minister also spoke about FTA. I think that opportunity they can explore. Finally, sir, this 10,000 SME fund is not just a financial thing. It is a structural reform, transform India's SMEs into growth-driven, capital-ready, and globally competitive enterprises. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Punuswamiji. You have highlighted two core issues here. One is that the SME Growth Fund, it will be different from the traditional credit that the SMEs have been getting in the form of bank finances. So this will be an equity infusion into the small and micro medium enterprises, which will enable them to scale up. So this is one core point that you have mentioned. And second is, you also mentioned about the IPOs. So definitely the journey for the small and medium enterprises to scale up, and not only to scale up, but also to corporatize and be able to actually get to the stage of an IPO. So that is a huge task and responsibility that we all will together. Ms. Padmaja Ruparel. She is partner in IAN Fund. She brings on table experience working in the private sector. She operates a venture capital fund and has a lot of expertise in the venture capital and the fund markets. So पद्मजा रूपारेल जी, मैं आपसे पूछना चाहूंगा, इस बजट में एक अनाउंसमेंट है, SRI फंड टॉप अप किया गया है by 2000 crores, and this is dedicated स्पेसिफिकली टू द माइक्रो एंटरप्राइजेस. इससे पहले जो एसआरआई फंड हम लोग मिनिस्ट्री में चलाते हैं, वो फंड एमएसएमईज के लिए था, जिसके अंदर 10,000 करोड़ का कॉर्पस था और अबाउट 75% से ऊपर डिप्लॉयमेंट फंड का ऑलरेडी हो चुका है. तो इसलिए अब एक नया ऊर्जा जो है एसआरआई फंड के अंदर आया है. और एक नई बात जो इसमें आई है वो ये कि ये फंड जो है ये माइक्रो एंटरप्राइजेस के ऊपर फोकस्ड है. मैं आपसे ये जानना चाहूंगा, इस फंड को माइक्रो एंटरप्राइजेस किस तरह से लेवरेज कर सकते हैं अपनी ग्रोथ के लिए?
Good morning, everybody. Sir, pehle to thank you for inviting me to this discussion. At the outset, I really want to thank the Honorable Prime Minister and congratulate the government for the very comprehensive and holistic package that has been announced in the last budget for MSMEs. I think it is really encouraging. Today, MSMEs are the backbone of any economy. And in India, they contribute to almost 30% of the country's GDP and 35% of manufacturing output. It is contributing to almost 45% of total exports of the country. And as you said, sir, almost 34 crores jobs have been created. So what I want to really say that MSMEs, micro, small and medium enterprises, are critical to the country. And hence, that is the first step towards our economy getting built. Focused on micro enterprises, today there are almost 7 crore micro enterprises in the country. These are vital for decentralization of economic distribution and non-agriculture based employment. Micro enterprises contribute to almost 6% of India's exports. And this indicates the huge potential that is already that we can see and actually create and help leverage. With this 2,000 crores top up of the SRI fund, as you mentioned, for micro enterprises, I think it does provide these companies or young enterprises the much needed risk capital. This is especially needed because they find it extremely difficult to operate because they have informal structures, they have limited transparency, they have little understanding of doing business, and to be able to raise debt with or without collaterals is extremely difficult. So equity infusion is probably the best path to going forward. Hence, to my mind, I'll give you some examples because I've been investing in small companies for a long time. I'll just give you two examples. We had invested about 1 crore equity. On an average, a crore creates about 8 to 10 jobs. A revenue of 1.3 crores is what they were doing when we invested. In about 2 years, that infusion helped them to create 11 crores of revenues. The valuation moved from literally 11 crores to 40 crores, right? If I look at another example, we again invested about 1.8 crores of equity infusion. Revenue when we invested was about 3.6 crores. In about 3 years, 2.5 to be precise, it moved to 9.5 crores. We invested at a 9 crore valuation. It moved to literally 75 crores of valuation. So the signal that this equity actually graduate micro enterprises to small and medium enterprises. And that helps them to not only become sustainable enterprises, but create much more value. The good side of micro enterprises, I think that we understate very often, is these are the companies which are small, 1 year, 2 year kind of small enterprises, which are innovating. They are leveraging technology. These are created by youngsters. And this can actually transform our industries, be it manufacturing, be it textiles, be it whatever. So this is a huge signal. This top up is not only very timely, but it's a huge signal from the government that these to help these companies not only get funded, not only help them build sustainable businesses, but they can transform the way we do business, right? With, as you said, sir, with the current SRI fund commitments nearing completion, I think this top up that is being infused will actually avoid stagnation. It will bring in an additional infusion. And I think, to my mind, this is a huge opportunity, actually, if we structure it, to catalyze private investment. Today, the private investor world has changed. And if there is a way that we can catalyze this SRI fund of top-up infusion and catalyze private investors, people who can mentor companies, people who can encourage innovation, I think that's the signal that is. So it is a signal which is transforming, I think, one of the key backbones of the economy. So on behalf of the industry and investors, I really congratulate you.
थैंक यू पद्मजा जी, आपने एक बहुत बड़ी बात यहाँ पर बताई और आपने अपना अनुभव शेयर किया कि आपने जब अपने इक्विटी फंड से आपने इन्वेस्ट किया माइक्रो एंटरप्राइजेस में, 1 करोड़ उनका टर्नओवर था और वो बढ़कर टर्नओवर जो है इंक्रीज बाय मोर देन 5 टाइम्स। तो ये एक बहुत बड़ा इनकरेजमेंट है आई थिंक माइक्रो एंटरप्राइजेस के लिए, क्योंकि माइक्रो एंटरप्राइजेस में ये जो इक्विटी इन्फ्यूजन है, इसके माध्यम से वो ना केवल अपनी टर्नओवर, ना केवल अपनी वैल्यूएशन कंपनी की बढ़ा सकते हैं, अपने आप को स्केल अप कर सकते हैं। सबसे बड़ी बात ये कि वो माइक्रो से जो आगे उनका पड़ाव है कि किस तरह से अपना माइक्रो एंटरप्राइज को स्मॉल से मीडियम और उस पाथ पे आगे चले, उस दिशा के अंदर एक पहल जो है वो करने का प्रयास भारत सरकार की तरफ से यहाँ पर हुआ है। डिस्कशन को आगे बढ़ाते हुए हमारे साथ जुड़े हुए हैं मिस्टर MK जैन, जो एक एमिनेंट बैंकर रह चुके हैं और साथ ही वो डेप्यूटी गवर्नर RBI के पद से सेवानिवृत्त हुए हैं और आज हमारे पैनल पे हैं। उनसे मैं ये पूछना चाहूंगा, इस बजट में ट्रेड्स के ऊपर जो अनाउंसमेंट्स हुई हैं, उसमें एक स्पेसिफिक कंपोनेंट अनाउंसमेंट का है कि CGTMSE का जो क्रेडिट गारंटी कवरेज है वो ट्रेड्स के ऊपर इंट्रोड्यूस किया जाएगा। और ये CGTMSE का क्रेडिट गारंटी कवरेज अभी तक सिर्फ बैंक लोन्स तक ही सीमित था। तो ये जो क्रेडिट गारंटी कवरेज ट्रेड्स के ऊपर किया जाएगा, इसके माध्यम से जो हमारे MSMEs हैं, किस तरह से बिल डिस्काउंटिंग में बढ़ावा मिलेगा और किस तरह से उनकी पेमेंट रिसीट साइकिल जो है उसमें फास्टर पेमेंट्स MSMEs को मिल पाएंगे, उसके ऊपर मैं आपके विचार जानना चाहूंगा।
धन्यवाद रजनीश जी। सर्वप्रथम तो मैं सभी श्रोताओं को अपना नमस्कार करना चाहूंगा। मेरे ख्याल से MSME का क्या महत्व है किसी भी अर्थव्यवस्था में और अर्थनीति को डिसाइड करने में, ये आप सभी भली भांति जानते हैं और कह भी चुके हैं। एम्प्लॉयमेंट में, GDP में, एक्सपोर्ट्स में क्या रोल अदा करते हैं। एक स्ट्रॉन्ग MSME में अगर ग्रोथ होती है तो वो हमारे विकसित भारत के एक विजन को पूरा करने में सार्थक रहेगी। और जो आत्मनिर्भर भारत का हमारा लक्ष्य है, उसमें बिना स्ट्रॉन्ग MSME की ग्रोथ के उसको पूरा करना शायद मुश्किल रहेगा। दूसरा, अगर स्ट्रॉन्ग MSME ग्रोथ रहती है तो उससे एफिशिएंट कैपिटल एलोकेशन होती है, वेल्थ एलोकेशन। तो वेल्थ डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन एफिशिएंट होने की वजह से एक MSME जो पर कैपिटा इनकम है और जो इनइक्वालिटी इनकम में रहती है, उसको काफी हद तक कम करती है। माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने 4 चीजें कही, हम प्रोडक्शन को कैसे इंक्रीज करें, कॉस्ट को कैसे रिड्यूस करें, इन्वेस्टमेंट को कैसे एनकरेज करें और इंक्लूसिविटी कैसे लाएं। तो इसमें जो ट्रेड्स में जो अनाउंसमेंट है वो मेरे ख्याल से दो चीजों पर बड़ा फोकस करती हैं, एक कॉस्ट को रिडक्शन में और इंक्लूसिविटी में। ट्रेड्स के प्लेटफॉर्म पे और जो CAGT MSE का है, इस पे आने से पहले मैं जरा कुछ बताना चाहूंगा कि MSME सेक्टर को किस तरह की चुनौतियों का सामना करना पड़ता है, आंतरिक और बाह्य। बहुत सारी चुनौतियां हैं और उनमें इस बजट में जो 3 मेजर अनाउंसमेंट किए गए हैं वो बहुत ही कारगर साबित होंगे उन चुनौतियों को डील करने के लिए। जो एक चुनौती सामने आती है कि कैसे माइक्रो से स्मॉल में ट्रांजिशन किया जाए, स्मॉल से लार्ज में, मीडियम में ट्रांजिशन किया जाए और मीडियम से लार्ज में, उसके लिए रिस्क कैपिटल और ग्रोथ कैपिटल की कमी रहती है। माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने 3 विषयों पर ध्यान दिलाया अपने उद्घोषण में: क्रेडिट अवेलेबिलिटी टू MSME, टेक्नोलॉजी अडॉप्शन एंड द कैपेबिलिटी एनहांसमेंट ऑफ द MSME सेक्टर। इस बजट अनाउंसमेंट तीनों पे फोकस किया गया है और वो फोकस ये है कि जो क्रेडिट की अवेलेबिलिटी है, जो ट्रेड्स के 4 अनाउंसमेंट हैं उसमें कैसे क्रेडिट की अवेलेबिलिटी उपलब्ध रहेगी, हाउ द वर्किंग कैपिटल साइकिल कैन बी रिड्यूस्ड एट द रीजनेबल कॉस्ट इन एन एफिशिएंट मैनर, दैट विल एड्रेस हाउ द टेक्नोलॉजी adoption will be focused and will be encouraged through the risk and the growth capital through SRI fund as well as the growth fund. And the third, the capabilities through the corporate mitra by providing the handholding on the governance, account and finance management, as well as the compliance. So my compliment to the Government of India and special compliment to the Ministry of MSME and other ministries who were able to got these announcements in the budget. Now let me come to the CGTSME. As we know, the micro and small particularly, they are always vulnerable to get the finance because of a couple of reasons. One, they are not having very good credit history. They are not able to maintain the proper books of accounts. They are not having much collateral. And quite often they were finding it difficult to get the finance timely as well as adequately. CGTSME really helped a lot to encourage the banks to reduce their credit cost and to really give the credit to the micro and small enterprises. Now in this trades platform, by design and by principle and the objective, it is without recourse fund available to the micro and small units. So it is without recourse. It means when the invoice has been discounted by the financing entities, there is no recourse in case of default to the micro and small. So it means the recourse will rest by the financer entities to the buyer. And at times it has been seen, while there is a good traction on the trades platform, at times it has been seen that the invoices which are drawn on the buyers who are investment and the below investment rated buyers or the unrated buyers, where the default probability is high, so the credit cost automatically will be high. So those type of invoices are not getting discounted on the platform. Now, by providing this CGTSME cover, I am sure the banks will be in a position to discount the invoices covering all the buyers, irrespective of their status, whether they are rated or unrated, because there is a guarantee provided by a fund. And that will help in reducing the credit cost to the bankers. And when it helps in credit cost to the bankers, then definitely it will expand the finance availability to the entire MSME unit, irrespective who is the buyer. It will improve the risk appetite of the financial entities, that is the banks and NBFCs, because they will be able to invoice, they will be able to discount invoice in a better manner. And third, I'm sure that it will reduce the discount rate as well, because there is a guarantee cover available. There is a reduced capital cost also to the banks because of the lower risk weight. And there is basically a guarantee given by the fund in case of default. So I'm sure that it will reduce the discount also. So what Secretary talked about it, that it's very important for the MSME to have liquidity availability and the cash flow availability to reduce their working capital cycle and to get the working capital and the financing funds timely at the affordable cost and available whenever it is required in an adequate manner. So I feel these measures will definitely help to expand the scope of the invoice discounting as well as reduce the risk, enhance the risk appetite of the financial entities. Thank you.
पे ट्रेड्स में किस तरह एमएसएमईज अपनी बिल डिस्काउंटिंग कराते हैं और किस तरह से सीजीटीएमएसई का जो कवरेज अब ट्रेड्स पे दिया गया है, किससे वो बिल डिस्काउंटिंग कराने में सुविधा होगी और जो हमारा ट्रेड्स मार्केट है रिसीवेबल्स का, उसको हम कैसे ब्रॉडन और डीपन कर सकेंगे। और एक चीज मैं अपने व्यूअर्स को यहाँ पर बताना चाहता हूँ कि 2025 में पिछले साल अगर हम देखें तो हमारे जो ट्रेड्स प्लेटफॉर्म है, ट्रेड्स प्लेटफॉर्म के ऊपर 3 लाख से ऊपर ऐसे इनवॉइसेस थे जो प्रेजेंट हुए पर वो फंड नहीं हो पाए। और जैसा जैन साहब ने बताया कि कई बार इनवॉइसेस फाइनेंशियर्स इसलिए फंड नहीं कर पाते हैं क्योंकि जो रेटिंग है बायर्स का, वो रेटिंग बीच में एक ऑब्स्टेकल क्रिएट करता है। और 17,000 करोड़ से ऊपर के जो इनवॉइसेस थे वो फाइनेंसिंग इनका नहीं हुआ था। और अब ट्रेड्स पे सीजीटीएमएसई का क्रेडिट गारंटी कवरेज से हम ये उम्मीद करते हैं कि ट्रेड्स पे हमारे अनफाइनेंस्ड जो इनवॉइसेस थे उनकी फाइनेंसिंग अब हो पाएगी। एक चीज और मैं अपने व्यूअर्स को यहाँ पर बताना चाहूंगा कि ट्रेड्स में पिछले 3-4 साल में हमने एक बहुत मैं कहूंगा कि एक एक्सपोनेंशियल ग्रोथ जो है वो हमने देखा है। 2022 की अगर हम बात करें तो 37,000 जो हमारे सेलर्स हैं वो ट्रेड्स के ऊपर रजिस्टर्ड थे, यानी 37,000 एमएसएमईज हमारे ट्रेड्स पे रजिस्टर्ड थे। और आज ये संख्या बढ़कर 2.5 लाख से ऊपर चली गई है। तो एक बहुत बड़ा व्यापक, मैं ये कहूंगा कि इसके अंदर ट्रेड्स का जो एक आउटरीच है और उसकी एक्सेप्टेबिलिटी है और उसकी यूटिलिटी जो है वो एमएसएमईज ने देखी है। और इसके अलावा जो इनवॉइस डिस्काउंटिंग की हम बात करते हैं, उसी को अगर हम देखें तो 4,300 करोड़ के करीब जो है इनवॉइस डिस्काउंटिंग हुआ था 2022 में। और आपको ये जान के प्रसन्नता होगी कि आज ये संख्या बढ़कर 7 लाख करोड़ से ऊपर चली गई है। तो ये एक बहुत बड़ा हम देख रहे हैं ट्रेड्स के ऊपर एमएसएमईज का बिल डिस्काउंटिंग होना। और उसमें एक जो सबसे बड़ी बात है, जो हम डिलेड पेमेंट्स की बात करते हैं, ट्रेड्स में इंस्टीट्यूशनली एमएसएमईज को 45 दिन तक भी वेट करना नहीं पड़ता है। अगर आप अपने इनवॉइसेस ट्रेड्स के ऊपर आप लाते हैं और अगर उन इनवॉइसेस को एक्सेप्ट किया जाता है बायर के माध्यम से, तो उसकी फाइनेंसिंग बैंक्स के माध्यम से इंस्टेंटेनियसली होती है और उसमें कोई 45 दिन तक वेट करने की भी आवश्यकता नहीं है। तो इन अ वे इट इज अ मैकेनिज्म फॉर institutionally redressing the issue of delayed payments for the MSMEs। तो अभी तक हमने अपने जो की पैनलिस्ट्स हैं उनसे हमने बात करी, हमने इक्विटी पे बात करी, हमने लिक्विडिटी पे बात करी। और अब हम आगे चर्चा को बढ़ाते हुए जो प्रोफेशनल सपोर्ट की बात की गई है इस बजट के अंदर, उस पे हम चलते हैं। और हमारे साथ आज जुड़े हुए हैं मिस्टर मोती, ही इज सीएमडी ऑफ नॉर्थ ईस्टर्न फाइनेंस डेवलपमेंट फाइनेंस कॉर्पोरेशन। And Mr. Murthy, welcome to the panel. I want to ask you this announcement of corporate mitras in this year's budget. How is it going to help the growth of MSMEs in the northeastern region, and not only the northeastern region but also in tier 2, tier 3 towns pan India?
Namaskar. Good afternoon. At the outset, let me congratulate you first for asking an apt and very correct question to the Northeast. Of course, other districts of our country. And I also congratulate, like Jain Saab told, congratulate the government of India for identifying an exact problem, which is no lack of this professional support is need of the hour. Because if you see in Northeast, for the last 10, 11 years, there is huge development. Railways, air connectivity, everywhere there is a development. And also the credit deposit ratio has also gone up substantially in all the states. But the problem is some of the areas where the MSMEs, as you rightly said, around 3 crores or 7 crores MSMEs, we have around 25 lakhs MSMEs. That constitutes around 4%. But the credit that has been received is only 1%. Number one. Number two, there is a huge scope to improve the number of MSMEs in Northeast. The only problem is how to get a firm registered, whether it is a partnership, whether it is limited liability or private limited. How to register is, there is a huge knowledge gap. And the CAs also, they are available only in state headquarters or in one or two states like Manipur and Assam. Other states, availability of chartered accountant is also a problem. But even if they are available, cost is very high. So the exact problem, actually being a development finance institution, I have been facing this problem because I have to lend to the micro, small, medium, preferably. Then only other this thing. So when I am lending this thing, people are not come prepared to take the loan, right from the checking of the CIBIL to till registration. So what we did, that we appointed some bank mitras, some kind, not the name, that is, name is something different, business facilitator, something like that. We have been trying. But Government of India has come out with this comprehensive scheme of developing the tier 2, tier 3 cities. It is going to help the Northeast especially, no, though other districts of some of the backward areas, etc. may, but Northeast, barring Assam, you have a lot of unserved and underserved areas. Though banking industry is have opened the branches, but still there are unserved and underserved areas where this hand-holding is very much necessary, number one. Number two, there is a huge development happening in Northeast. State governments are giving their own incentives. Central government is giving their incentive like Unnati, MOVDCR, so many schemes are there. So you to get the benefit, even you were just now covered with the two that venture capital funds. Even if you have to become eligible to take a venture capital fund, definitely the MSME has to be prepared and they should observe certain formalities that is to be done, or at least they should register as a company. So this is a big problem which we are trying to address it. But now with this kind of an initiative from Government of India, I am sure there is going to be a huge game change in Northeast. Definitely, because now there is the biggest chip assembly factories coming up. Now ancillary industries has to come up in MSME area. So for that, there needs to be a lot of hand-holding and training. Training is more important. And then there are people who are ready to get trained, and because of some bankers, retired bankers, they are settled in those areas. All these people we can identify, we can train them, and they onward, they can train because here, these are all small units, food processing units. Very small units. They don't need big money, but they should make themselves ready to take the funding from the banks or financial institutions. So I congratulate once again the Government of India. This is the exact problem which we are facing in Northeast, maybe in other districts of other country, but this is going to be a big game changer. Thank you.
चीज जो बताई कि अगर माइक्रो स्मॉल मीडियम एंटरप्राइजेस इनको स्केल अप करना है तो इनको किसी ना किसी रूप में, चाहे कंपनी के रूप में या लिमिटेड लायबिलिटी और पार्टनरशिप, किसी ना किसी फॉर्म में इनको रजिस्टर करना होता है। और इस समस्या को सुलझाने के लिए, इसमें इनको फैसिलिटेट करने के लिए गवर्नमेंट ने कॉर्पोरेट मित्रास का जो इस बार बजट अनाउंसमेंट हुआ है, उससे माइक्रो एंटरप्राइजेस स्पेशली जो है टियर 2 टियर 3 टाउन्स में, उनको बहुत सुविधा और सहायता रहेगी। Now we will proceed ahead with the discussion. I will call upon Mr. Punuswamy again. So Mr. Punuswamy, the vision for a Viksit Bharat also requires strengthening of the manufacturing sector. I want to ask you how the announcement of the SME Growth Fund, how will it help the small and medium enterprises to strengthen the manufacturing, and how this will in general strengthen the manufacturing ecosystem in India?
Sir, once the equity comes, the satisfaction, the confidence of MSME improves. When he has funds, he has confidence. So we have seen a lot of, when Prime Minister spoke about focus sector, say like electronic components, this ECMS scheme is available for component manufacturing. If we see mobile export, if our value addition about 15 to 20% only. So we have a lot of opportunity MSME to make components. I think that way that the scheme also very good. I think a lot of approval, particularly the recent approval ECMS 54% is from MSMEs. I think it will as a great, like that critical minerals extraction recycling. I think great opportunity MSME, particularly in recycling, they can play a big role. Many MSMEs, they are doing very good growth in business. That is also there. And also this chemical park. See, there will be a lot of MSMEs who make some specialty chemicals. They can set up there by getting raw material from the major chemical industries. I think that will have, and also this biosciences, bulk drugs and drug industries, SMEs have a lot of opportunity. Again, labor intensive textile, leather, it's all in rural area, a lot of units are there. I think they can also use this one and they become larger, and then they can also do a lot of automation, use AI for manufacturing. So when they have money, they will think of all these things. Money is the major problem for them. Now you have solved that, sir. And also electrical vehicle components, so many things are there. Even renewable energy, a lot of things are happening. The components manufacturing SME can come, sir. Many opportunities, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Punu Swamiji. Now, when we speak of the manufacturing sector and when we interact with the MSMEs and MSME associations, one of the key constraints besides access to finance that the MSMEs face is access to technology. And access to technology also ultimately requires some kind of funding. And we believe in Government of India that the SME Growth Fund is going to solve this problem. So this is not only access to credit, this is access to credit which will enable the small and medium enterprises to also utilize it towards investment into technologies. So with this, we will, given the restriction of time that we have, I will only be able to take few more questions. So now I will invite Padmaja ji, given your experience in running the venture capital funds. So what do you think should be the focus areas or the design elements for the SRI top-up that has been announced?
So I think, this top-up is important, and because it's focused on micro enterprises, I think two things would be very, very important. One is how these micro enterprises which are getting utilizing this top-up, how they're going to scale. And scale means technology adoption, innovation, and understanding how to build the businesses or scale. So I think that is one piece that is very critical. The other piece that I think is also very critical is how, as they grow, they can access private capital. Because the government money is getting this off the ground, but how can we catalyze private capital so that we actually move towards small and then medium and hopefully large and IPOs and all the rest of it. So I think this is a kicker in some ways to get them on a path to move towards IPOs. Not all will go there, but many will go there. And it will create a new, innovative, technology-enabled supply chain, which can not only become a backbone for our country, but actually what Honorable Prime Minister mentioned in his speech was a global supply chain can be created from India. And that, I think, is where we could take this vision.
So we have time for one more question, and this I would like to pose to Mr. M.K. Jain. Given your experience as a banker, as a regulator, can you tell us this announcement in the budget regarding TREDS and the integration of TREDS with GEM, and also making TREDS a mandatory platform for the payment, for the procurement by the CPSEs? How this is going to broaden the TREDS ecosystem, and how it is going to help the MSMEs?
I think it was a long pending demand from the banks and BFCs as well as the industry. Because of the couple of reasons, while the government made it mandated that all CPSC and the corporates with a turnover of 250 crore and above must register on the TEDS platform. But the pace is not as desirable. The GEM is already having a very excellent portal where it starts from the order, the procurement, supply of the goods, and the invoice. And once there is a linkage of the GEM, seamless linkage of the GEM with the TEDS, so what it will help, it will basically reduce the friction of collecting the information by the banks and the financial institution. The asymmetry of information will go away. The time taken by the banks to really extract those data will drastically reduce. And all these efforts will definitely reduce the cost of financing as well. So definitely it will help in immediately providing this type of facility, the invoice discounting facility, to the all micro and small and medium enterprises who are willing to take this facility. So that's number one. Second, with regard to this mandating all the CPSC, I think it's the need of the hour. Presently, to my understanding, probably there are around 6,000 CPSC and the large corporates who are registered on the TEDS platform. But once it is mandated, then definitely there will be a very effective and very wide spectrum discounting facility available to all the units. Presently, what is happening, generally these micro and small and medium enterprises are the receiving end from the buyer side, because they are having some bilateral contract with regard to the payment while it is mandated for 45 days, but still they are having bilateral and they don't have the other option to switch over from one buyer to another buyer. So at times under that threat, they find it very difficult to put out their invoice while they're willing to put out their invoice on the TEDS platform. Once it is mandated, then it's clearly available on the GEM portal as well as this portal. I think it will help a lot to the micro and small enterprises particularly.
Thank you, Mr. Jan. So we have already run out of time, so we will have to wind up this session here. This was a thematic session on the budget announcements, and would like to request all the viewers who are joined with us. Now we will be starting with the breakout sessions. So there will be 4 breakout sessions, so you can choose which session you want to join in. With this, thank you. Jai Hind.
पानी यार
Should we start? Okay. Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining. This is a session on Top Up Self-Reliant Fund. We have a very eclectic, I should say, panelists around me and on the virtual screen. So welcome to everybody, and also welcome to many participants, both active and those who are online to perhaps gain from the discussions. This is a session which is about 75 minutes. I am going to structure it as follows. Quickly be very brief on introductions to the panelists. So panelists, if I miss out something, it's more to be in the interest of time, but all of you are eminent in your own fields. And then try and do the questions with them for next 45 minutes and leave about 25 minutes or so for active participation from non-panelists, where the panelists will respond. So it's a very simple structure, and let's get going. The Top Up 2,000 crore of SRI fund specifically is for micro enterprises, as the government and the ministry have sort of have focused on this. The recent definition of MSMEs, where there has been an increase both in turnover as well as in investment, has actually expanded the number of enterprises that can avail of this. So a larger number of people can actually see if they can avail of this top up. I think what is very catalytic, as we spoke about in the earlier session, is that this support can actually bring in private investment, can help micros to graduate to small, medium, and then hopefully large enterprises, and enable innovation as well as economic inclusion. So this top up is a real signal to build the backbone of small enterprises in the country. This is also the reason why, because the ministry has not done this micro enterprises equity infusion earlier. And I think this is also the reason why this discussion has been put together. It is the ministry is very keen from this discussion and this session. They would like insights and tangible recommendations for the deployment of this top-up amount. So everyone who's participating, please be focused that the output and the outcome of this session is on recommendations. We have an excellent, as I said, excellent and diverse panel, which can give us a holistic discussion. Let me quickly introduce the panelists. We have Shri Ashok Chandra. He had assumed charge as Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of Punjab National Bank, and has a vast and varied experience in the banking industry with over 30 years of experience. I think he's on the screen. Well, he's joined us.
Thank you, madam.
We have Akshay Pant on my left. He's the Chief Investment Officer and Head of Fund of Funds at SVL Innovation Fund. He focuses on fund of funds, portfolio strategy, and strategic guidance to portfolio companies. Welcome, Akshay.
Thank you.
We have Ms. Aparna Tyagarajan. She is based in Mumbai and is currently Chief General Manager at SEBI. Aparna Tyagarajan holds a Master's of Business Administration and Finance from University of Madras. Ma'am, welcome to the session.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Thank you. We have Shri S.P. Singh again joining us virtually. He's Chief General Manager of SIDBI and has over 3 decades of experience ranging from structured finance, fund of funds, treasury and resource management, and direct dispensation of credit to MSMEs.
Yeah.
Welcome, sir.
Thank
to
you.
the session. Again, on my left, we have Ms. Visalakshmi Chandramoli. She has spent over 3 decades across healthcare, private equity, equity research, and pharma R&D operations. As head of the Tata Capital Healthcare Fund, Visalakshmi drives the fundraising and investment management activities of the fund. Thank you for joining us, ma'am.
Thank you.
We have Shri Madhav Kshatriya. I think he's joined us online. Oh, sorry. Right. Founder and Managing Director of Cornext Agri Products Private Limited, operating in the agri-tech, dairy and farm mechanization from Hyderabad and Guntur in India. He's an agri-tech entrepreneur with 15 years of experience.
Thank you.
Welcome to the session. Shri Ashish Chaturvedi, is he online?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Welcome to the session. Ashish is Constant AI founder, is Stanford University graduate, building AI solutions for healthcare, leveraging technologies like AI. Welcome to the session. Shri Hemant Jain, I think again joined us online, I hope.
No, ma'am, he's not there.
He's not joined? Okay. Mr. Vijay Kalantri, he's not joining. Okay. And we have Mr. Sudhir Mutalik from CII. Has he joined? Okay. I think let's dive straight into the session. So I'm going to ask the question, and I really want each of the panelists to give us their views. Quick question to Ms. Aparna Tyagarajan. Ma'am, how can the top-up maximize participation of private capital? As the earlier session had also referred to this, but your insights as SEBI would be extremely interesting.
Thank you, Ms. Padmaja, and very warm greetings to my fellow panelists as well. And I hope I am audible. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Thank you so much. So, if I can just start off with a macro perspective in terms of how SEBI fosters capital generation and mobilization via, these managed pooled vehicles, pooled investment vehicles, particularly in the context of alternative investment vehicles. If you look at it, it is largely meant to be a vehicle which can mobilize the money from investors with a fairly high risk appetite towards sectors or towards enterprises which are rather underserved by traditional channels of financing, be it your banks or NBFCs and such like. So, in that sense, and again, within the regulatory framework itself, a lot of work has been done to foster capital mobilization for this segment, and there is a structured framework by way of the categorization of the funds has been provided within the SEBI regulations, the AIF regulations of 2012. Again, from the topic of interest of SMEs, SME is specifically a dedicated SME fund is permitted within the category 1, which again is a focused SME directive, where more than 75% of the investments, get into SME as classified by the government. So in a way, we feel a lot of work has been done, and SEBI is definitely, in terms of how the support that is required to the ecosystem, we are always there. In terms of how much regulatory impetus can be given via the policies. And we are constantly in touch with the fund managers and with institutions like SIDBI, again, who's there on the call. So any kind of support that is required from a policy perspective, SEBI has been doing it. Some of the things, for example, if you look at the work that we have done around accreditation, Okay, the flexibilities that we had done with respect to recently announced flexibilities that we have given for large value funds. So these are all things which I believe will go a long way in terms of ensuring that there is a dedicated light touch regulate, compliant requirements kicking in product, where with while you have the comfort of the product being regulated, there is not much of a day-to-day intervention from a regulator standpoint, and therefore the operations are also more seamless. A lot of flexibilities have been given with respect to investment as such in the AIF regulations. So these I feel will be very, very useful both from the SMEs perspective and from the investors perspective, where this can be utilized as a product which helps capital generation for SME enterprises.
Thank you, ma'am. We've been interacting with SEBI very often, and we've seen the evolution and innovation that you have also done in your regulatory frameworks. So yes, we've seen that, and I'm sure as we go into this, SEBI will also partner the fund,
Sure.
the MSME fund.
Certainly.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
inputs.
Yeah.
To Ashish Chaturvedi.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, Ashish, one of the focus areas of this fund is also to balance out the regional coverage, especially in underserved regions. So to your mind, how can this balanced regional coverage be increased under the SRI fund across tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, underserved districts, aspirational districts? What is it that can be done to ensure this focus is sort of met?
Right, ma'am. Thank you. I think, first of all, in a short period of time, SRI fund reach has been great. From Kashmir to Kanyakumari, we have covered the whole country. There are specific sectors and particularly underserved areas we can do much more, like partnering with many institutions where a lot of micro enterprises are getting incubated, and those enterprises we can support through funds with participation from institutions as well as the local fund operators and local self-help groups where many of the micro enterprises are getting formed. So those can definitely help in expanding the reach of SRI fund. In addition to that, if we focus on educational institutes which are also enabling the new micro enterprises being formed, so we kind of meet them where they are and start from that point, rather than waiting till they kind of get to a point, and we help them go through that journey right from the beginning. So that can help and expand the reach for the micro enterprises.
Interesting. I think you're saying let's go deeper and local. That's what you're suggesting.
Right.
Very interesting. Very interesting. So from there, let me bring in a very experienced fund manager, Visa Lakshmi, yourself. You've been investing using equity money, obviously, across different stages of the companies, including SMEs. What mechanism, to your mind, can increase funding to especially women-led entrepreneurs? And your experience would be very useful for everyone to understand.
First of all, thank you, Padmaja, and very good afternoon to all the panelists here. Let me start by saying, first of all, it's extremely encouraging to see this 2,000 crore top up. We've, as Tata Capital Healthcare Fund, we've been a daughter fund, and we've been a recipient for the SME investment, and where we have already seen a huge multiplier effect to the extent of 8 to 10 times kind of a multiplier effect. And I think the support that is now needed for the micro enterprises is clearly, it bodes, we are thinking ahead in terms of the next wave of the growth. Most importantly, I think coming to women, out of the, the so-called 77 million SMEs that you have, roughly about, at least the statistics say that there were at least about 15 million SMEs, which are women-led SME enterprises. here it's first of all, micro enterprises itself, there is a challenge in terms of access of capital, how they will create value, etc. But women-led micro enterprises, I think, we have to face the fact that there is more constraints in accessing capital and integrating these women-led micro enterprises into the formal, because I think there is no dedicated capital pool that is going towards, say, a women-led. In fact, I want to quote an IFC study, which is a 2024 study, which says that there is as much as $100 billion financing gap for women-owned SMEs, and in India alone. And this is the largest financing gap from a gender financing gap that you can have, compared to the rest of the world. And this is specifically true for micro-led enterprises. And also, I think we also know that there is a challenge in terms of awareness. There is a challenge in terms of awareness about bank credit, challenge in terms of awareness about government programs, etc. So, I think, Padmaja, you talked about saying that what can be done in order to sort of bring about, what is a possible mechanism? See, the mechanism today we have is through the PVC funding route, through, what SRI is currently providing, which is largely towards SME. But even in that, less than, I would say, 10% of India's PVC deals in any given year are actually made by women founders or women co-founders, right? And despite and this has nothing to do with performance, right? So this is just the state of the affairs. So clearly, I think there is a need to address the financing gap, more so in micro and also in SME. So one thing I have come about, having dealt with some of the global institutions, and maybe we can take cue from some of the global gender lens investing parameters. So can we design a way to enhance funding specifically through the VC daughter funds, where they can direct funding with a specific global gender investing lens? And this, I think, I just want to break down into 4-5 aspects. It doesn't need to be just women-led. There are 4 to 5 parameters, and this is specifically in the global context, it's called as a 2x challenge, but we can tweak it from a micro enterprise standpoint. Like, for example, can we create an ecosystem where we can direct capital where at least one of these 4-5 criteria are met? Like, for example, women-owned businesses directly, right? So it has to be a woman. Could it be a woman-owned with significant ownership, right? That can be, again, a very, very specific target. Or you can say that a certain percentage of women have to be in the management team running that micro enterprises. It doesn't need to be women-owned, but it can be a woman-managed enterprise. Or it could be where women form a significant part of the supply chain or the value chain of these enterprises. Or it can even be where there is at least a significant 30 to 50% of women in the workforce of these enterprises. And finally, what about, we are missing out, say, women products. Are these, if this micro enterprise is catering towards products for women, which could be, specific healthcare products, education products, financial inclusion products, whatever. And if that particular VC or a PE is meeting this criteria, at least 1 or 2 of these criteria, it can form a framework towards sort of how can we sort of improve the private capital investment to these daughter funds, who in turn then generate a ripple effect. I think this is one broad framework that I've been thinking through, ever since we've been, talking about this particular thing over the last week. More importantly, I think just providing equity capital may not be enough. It has to be, some kind of a, backed by some kind of a credit guarantee. can we do that? Can we back it with an equal amount of funding or a support in terms of some kind of a collateral for especially for these women-led enterprises? So this is, I was thinking, was one framework which I think as a policy maker we can seriously sort of think about in this particular.
Interesting.
Then obviously I think there are a lot of other things in terms of providing support on in terms of connections, business development support. It could be, which is similar, which is not very specific for women-led, how do we create that ecosystem for women-led entrepreneurship, which is, I think we need a gender lens investing framework specifically for micro, because I would say more than 90% of your MSMEs are actually micro enterprises, right? So can we bring that gender investing framework and give that as a kind of an accredited title, saying that VCs who are bringing this gender lens investing will get a certain.
Very interesting. I think what you're broken it down extremely well. And I would say that your idea of equity with credit guarantee is excellent. Perhaps getting credit for the women entrepreneurs is a challenge. So in some ways, the equity can be matched, or a certain percentage of it could be matched by credit, right?
Yes.
So the equity becomes a kind of a quote unquote
Absolutely. Like a package.
Like a package. And I think it's very interesting you say this as a woman fund manager. So that is the other piece that we should not forget, that women entrepreneurs get supported by women fund managers. So very interesting points, and I must say detailed. Thank you very much. Madhav, if I can bring you in on this one. I think the SRI fund has already been structured, it's in play, there are processes, and to a great extent, it has accelerated deployment through whatever daughter fund structures they have. And they have a set investment thesis, which will need some tweaks, of course, for micro enterprises. But you are one of the entrepreneurs who has perhaps benefited from this, right? So you have an experience that would be extremely valuable as this gets structured out. So from your viewpoint, how do we ensure, or what are the changes we need, you think, that can be embedded in the 2,000 crore top up, where it can not only go into underserved sectors, but there would be perhaps some capacity building that be needed, and how can we accelerate this further? Because micro means they're very small companies and their ability to wait is not that great. So I always say this, that funding delayed is funding denied in some ways. So what are your suggestions here? Because that's a perspective very useful.
Thank you, Padmaji. And when I was able to say a few points that Visalakshi ji was talking about. Before I get into it, I would just want to give a brief description of how this fund helped. So I'll tell you, I'm proof the fund works, and here is what we have built. And also want to acknowledge and thanks Sri Ashok Chandra of Punjab National Bank, who has been our banker since inception. So it has been very difficult coming from an agri idea to even get debt. And now equity, it took 8.5 years that we could raise a quality equity thanks to SRA fund. And once we raised it, when we were at about 20 crores, when we raised money today, we are at about 60 crores, eventually going to 100 crores. When this is the kind of narrative that should go. And just to give you a perspective here, we have enhanced our utilized the technology for the fund that we raised. And currently we have nurtured about 600 entrepreneurs, creating 20 to 30 jobs, when these entrepreneurs at micro level are creating those jobs. And each of them create about 2 to 3 crore in gross revenue and about 15 to 20 lakh rupees to them. And this is a kind of responsibility not a small startup like Cornex can do. And to get to the point where we have to go further and a bit faster on it. So we have spent 8.5 years before we get an access to equity fund. Whereas when it's not the kind of we have. the eligibility criteria. The first and foremost thing that that you have to tweak is eligibility criteria. And especially for the sector that I come from, having a very well laid out reports, etc., is not is something that you have to be worried about. The ticket size, the average ticket size, majority of the VC funds are not interested if the ticket size are, say, less than $500,000 or so, which is about 3 crores, 4 crores, 5 crores, etc. Majority of the micro enterprises, including ours, at the very inception stage, would be very happy if you get a ticket size of about 1 crore. Or, you were talking about it in the beginning also. That 1 crore has potential to go to 100 crore rupees within no time, because that is the most important 1 crore. And it took a lot of time for us to raise the first crore. And subsequently it became, the bank route. And then 8.5 years, we got 20 crores, which is $2 million to get to this point. We would have accelerated the entire journey within the first 3-4 years if we have had access to fund, mentorship, training. And this also means, at the outset I told, which means the impact. Visalakshiji was talking about women, the sector that I'm in has 80% women-driven, either in the production side or in the beneficiary side. I come from dairy sector. So over there, if you put 1 rupee, the multiplier effect, we all know the kind of impact that it can create. And the the most important thing, ma'am, if you can look at their GST filing history, if they're consistent, penalty free, etc., that can be a criteria how you can fund this in 1 crore. And the risk appetite, you should be more risk pro, should invest into this thing. Last point here, which I thought is very important. Through SRI funds, you probably have funded about 750 odd companies already, right? And across sectors, when I'm not talking about a particular sector, some of these sectors, including Cornext, are, those are ecosystem builders, ecosystem enablers. They are very curated. You have seen their journey, you have invested. So pick 10% of these companies, could be 60, 70 companies. There are so many people within their value chain, small, there are people who are enabling their technology. There are people who are working on their AI methodologies or mechanization, so on and so forth. All these companies require about 50 lakh rupee to 4 crore, 3 crore kind of setup. So if you can earmark 500 to 1,000 crore out of the 2,000 crore top up, take 70 odd companies within 700 SRI beneficiaries and give them the decision to where this money should go. And you will be there as mentors when the daughter funds are there to mentor, because they know how Cornext behaves. I have seen there are beautiful companies within your portfolio, and they know where this money should be invested. And that would be a wonderful way, very faster way, because it took a lot of time for you to reach 700, but the money that you have, you should be reaching 4,000, 5,000 kind of companies. You need vehicles, and these ecosystem builders, across the verticals, will be enabling that particular thing. To conclude, so the SRI fund reached Cornext. The moment it reached, we done about 100% year-on-year growth, and we are continuing. There are so many Cornext sitting there for their first 1 crore, and then their next $1 million, probably the next $2 million. If you can focus on it, you are going to change the country one step at a time. For that, the most important thing is, don't worry too much about their last 3-year history. That is important, but that is not the guiding thing. Because first 2 years, ideas set up karne mein chale jate. You depend on your ecosystem builders, because you have already given money. You already have given 20 crore, 30 crore kind of money to them. So put another 10 crore, 20 crore so that they can build the system for you. And there's much more to what I've written. Given the time, I'll be able to send the entire idea of about 10, 15 pages, which I don't want to put here. When there are more questions, I will probably be doing it. So that way, simply put, if these 70 ecosystems can help you fund another 20, 30 companies, you're reaching 1,500 companies in the next 3-4 year time span, and you will be spending about 500 to 1,000 crore rupees. And that will be a very big game changer as well.
No, I think your ideas were very game changers. The most interesting one is you've created micro entrepreneurs in Cornext, and what you're suggesting is we create micro investors. So that's interesting. But I think what is more important, if we want to accelerate deployment in micro enterprises, I think we will have to move away from some of the parameters that we have in the SRI fund. We can't have a three-year parameter that is there. We'll have to look at other parameters like have they been compliant, have they been paying their GST, what are they trying to do in ticket sizes, can those be sort of restructured? So thank you very much. And I think what you brought out is another very, very important point, which this top-up can leverage is really the mentorship and guidance. I think that is very important. On your note of thanking Mr. Ashok Chandra, sir, thank you for helping one of the entrepreneurs. It is from the investing industry as well as the ecosystem. Thank you very much. And on that note, I'd like to invite you to share your thoughts on how can this top up, this 2,000 crore top up help enterprises to become sustainable through equity capital in a manner that other funding options are also available.
Thank you, madam, and thanks to and good afternoon, madam, and good afternoon to all the co-panelists and all other participants. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity, this platform to share my experience. First of all of us are committed for the Viksit Bharat 2047. And if that the dream has to be fulfilled, it has to be channelized through the MSME sector. I think we all know that MSME sector is one of the very, very key sectors from the point of view of the GDP, from the point of view of export, from the point of view of employment. So that being the case, I think there is a strong case for all of us who are connected here to create the environment where MSME plays very, very important role. Now, what are the, I will give you one, the figure also. Last SRI fund, which was launched in May 2020 to provide equity, quasi-equity and the debt to MSMEs. The total, the utilization which has happened to the tune of 1,962 crore, which is already deployed. 718 MSMEs have been supported and 16,742 crore mobilized from the co-investors. So you can imagine the impact this SRI fund which has created in the entire ecosystem. Almost 8.5 times of the corpus, the fund has come now. And if I take that 1:3, the debt equity ratio funding by the various banks, I think definitely to the tune of more than 50,000 crore of the debt that would have gone to this entire entity. So that is the impact, 2,000 crore of corpus that has brought revolution in this entire MSME sector now. And we all know that we have, as on today, 7.78 crore registered MSME units are there on the Udemy portal. And like many of the panelists mentioned that more than 90% of these registrations are for the micro segment. So definitely micro segment plays very, very important, crucial role from the point of the employment, from the point of productivity also. Now, what are the challenges they have? Equity is one of the challenges, liquidity is another challenge, technology is another challenge, marketing is another challenge, and compliance. So if I take the budget announcement of this year, I think this year budget takes care of all these issues related with the MSME. Now, coming to the core, this top-up funding, which has been prescribed in this particular budget, and I have already shared the impact which it has already created the last SRI fund. I have some suggestions how we can further improve this the mechanism and how we can further bring more and more micro enterprises to avail this facility. First, I would like to suggest that let us offer some tax holidays or lower capital gains tax for the private equity fund which is coming in this particular system now. So this is one suggestion I will have from the department and the ministry concerned. Second suggestion which I would like to give it that implement a single window digital portal to connect all the private investors directly with verified or potentially micro enterprises. This will ease the entire process
And as our Honorable Prime Minister is always talking about the simplification and digitization of this process, I think this will help the entire ecosystem to build up and activate this entire the MSME ecosystem. Next is the offer tax holidays or lower tax capital gains tax for the private equity funds. Next is the reduce the time. Generally, it takes around 3 to 4 months for the daughter funds to be created. I think whether we can reduce the further timeline and whether we can bring the digital piece in that entire ecosystem. Next, in fact, many forums I have shared this. Here also I would like to share is that whether we can engage with the domestic institutional investors. Now see, we have the pension funds, insurance funds are available, whether we can create some sort of ecosystem, whether they can also participate in this daughter fund and they can bring the large investment in this particular activity. Next, I will suggest that whether we can facilitate the faster and easier exit strategy also for the private the investors. That is also very, very important. If it is very, very rigid and the norms are very tight, it becomes very, very difficult for the private PE fund and the venture capitalist to come in this particular activity. Next is to lower the minimum required investment threshold for smaller PE and VC firms to encourage wider participation. This is another one suggestion I would like to give it to the concerned ministry. Next is the link the self-reliant funds to sectors covered under production-linked incentives like PLI, such as electronics, semiconductors, and defense manufacturing, ensuring higher growth prospects. Because there are a lot of startups that is coming under particular activity, and I think we need to look into this aspect also. Last aspect, and one of the panelists talked about it, that government can observe the first loss in the event of investment failure, encouraging private daughter funds to take higher risk in the emerging sectors. I think these are few suggestions which I would like to give it to the concerned ministry, whether some of this, if it can be implemented, I think definitely this fund will have much more impact in the entire system. There is no doubt that this acts as a catalyst for the equity funding, for the quasi funding, and thereby the debt funding also comes by the various banks. So I will stop here, and if I get the opportunity further, I will talk about certain other issues. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I think on behalf of investors and fund managers, some of the points you've made is making it easier for them. So appreciate that. And I think that will help in accelerating a lot of the deployment. It would be nice if debt funding also gets partnered with this top up. It would really help, as one of the earlier panelists has suggested.
I agree with that. I totally agree with you.
Thank you. Akshay, you've been sort of a manager of fund of funds. You've been investing in SMEs, and you have a huge experience with the kind of deployment that you have, anchored into from the SRI fund. There were two questions I had for you, if I may put them all both together. To your mind, what are the additional outcomes that can be tracked beyond just capital deployment? I mean, that is also important to figure out that just deployment is not the outcome, but there are others. And secondly, for the outcomes to be beyond just deployment, what are the on-ground changes you think micro enterprises would need to do to avail of this top-up? I mean, there are two sides of the same coin in some ways, but one is wider.
Sure. Just one second. I'm just making a note of the second question so that I don't miss it.
Changes that micro enterprises need to do to avail of this function.
Yeah. So I think, first of all, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining in today and for allowing me an opportunity to present my view. I think a couple of things. We look at the outcomes that have got driven through SRI 1.0 and potentially what can get driven through the top. Broadly broken up into two buckets. One is an operational outcome and two is a strategic outcome.
right? If you were to look at operational outcomes, obviously, yes, capital deployment, the speed of deployment of that capital, the extent of reach, how many micro enterprises have you actually benefited, not just in terms of capital deployed, but the extent of reach. And Madhav actually made a very, very pertinent or a valid point saying there are 70 or 80 ecosystem builders that have already got set up in the under the SME ecosystem. Can we use that or leverage that to extend the reach to micro enterprises? Are there financial metrics that can be used as outcome indicators? Can we see how micro enterprises have scaled up over, say, 1, 3, 5 years after receiving investment? That could be a good indicator of outcomes. And how many have scaled up beyond the micro enterprises? So micro to small, small to large, so on, and medium, and so on. The second operating indicator that I would like to see is in terms of employment generation. How have these micro enterprises actually created more and more employment, be it directly in those enterprises itself or in the value chain that they operate, right? Because of their existence in the value chain, how many jobs have got created across the value chain? And what is the quality of the jobs? It's not just to say that, okay, there is one person doing this at this point in time, but is that person on roll? Is he or she off roll? What are the quality? Are they included in the financial ecosystem? The quality of the jobs that come on with all of this. The third outcome, again, we've been discussing is geographic reach. Can this top up go to areas or geographies in the country which have so far been difficult to reach? Can there be an outcome linked to geographies? And yeah, so these are the operating parameters. From a strategic outcome, I would say capital mobilization. How much has this top up? We've seen again from the SRI experience a 7.5, 8 times mobilization that has happened at the fund level because of SRI coming in. We've seen about 8x capital coming in from other investors. Can we also see it at the portfolio company level? Have portfolio companies raised debt and equity at a subsequent period of time after SRI's investment? And therefore, the total capital formation in the micro enterprise ecosystem per se, right? Across different layers. So that's one strategic objective, and across different types of capital. We've seen, for example, sovereign investors, we've seen DFI capital, we've seen commercial capital. I think over time, everybody will want to move towards commercial capital to see that the business is de-risked to a large extent, that commercial capital actually comes in and makes returns. Another strategic outcome that I would sort of like to measure is given focus, and the Honorable Prime Minister also mentioned this during his speech, the focus on research and the focus on innovation, right? Can these micro enterprises lead the IP charge, right? Can they lead IP creation? Can they lead patents that have got filed, right? That's a potential measurable, tangible, measurable outcome. And can through this mechanism, can outcomes on IP and patents be tracked? Formalization of micro enterprises. A lot of the micro enterprises are still in the informal sort of sector, I would like to sort of say. Can they be formalized? Can they be brought into more formal avenues? And finally, the outcome that I would like to track is how closely are these linked to Government of India's priorities, be it say export, be it say priority sectors or policy aligned outcomes, and how many of them can potentially say plug into global supply chains. Are micro enterprises plugging into global supply chains, which will then help in the overall visibility of the company, of the country, so to speak. Answering your second question, so this was in terms of the outcomes. To answer your second question, I think there needs to be a recognition amongst businesses that institutional capital will have its own set of terms and conditions. There will be a bit of a steep learning curve for founders and for businesses to adapt to once there's an investor on board. The way an investor would look at a business decision will perhaps be different from the way an entrepreneur looks at a business decision, and recognition of that fact, right? Just recognizing that there are two sides to a coin, and that it is important to understand and to hear out both sides to see what is in the best interest of the company. I think that is something that is one paramount. Two, are there modules or training sessions that can get created for micro enterprises to exactly address this point, right? Because it is a new relationship on the cap table for these micro enterprises? How does the dynamics of governing a business, how does the dynamics of running a business change when you have an institutional investor of Government of India sitting on the cap table? So I think these are two things that I would definitely look forward to.
Yeah, I think on the outcomes, it's very interesting what you mentioned, because increasingly we are moving into a multipolar world. And I think this strategy of what you're saying, linked to government's imperatives, is critical, because we will have to solve our own real problems and we will have to align with our own strategic imperatives. So that is true. And I think in your change in recognition, I think the biggest change that I've seen, just to add to what you're saying, is the founder is no longer the only owner of the business. I think that acceptance becomes also very important. So I don't have too much time, but I do want to make sure that, like we look at every investment, we also have something that everything works, everything will be deployed, and the company will move. But there is something called risk evaluation, right? Which is second nature to a lot of business owners as well as investors. So I'd really like to invite somebody who has been investing, who has been working with SMEs and MSMEs as well for a very long time, Mr. Singh, Mr. SP Singh. If I may invite you to share your perspectives on what risks could be mitigated for this top-up capital. How could we ensure that there are outcomes like Akshay pointed out, and the capital is actually utilized well, and there are risks that can be mitigated once we, of course, identify them.
Thank you, Padmaja, and it's my pleasure to be part of this panel. Basically, if we see that, the success of SRI fund is revalidated by Government of India itself by topping up this fund and the data which has been flowing to the ecosystem. What I'm seeing with this top up, 3-4 particular areas where this top up should be, I think, better channelized and better managing the imminent risk. The first important thing is that the micro enterprises, if I classify them into two parts, the new generation micro enterprises, which are called startups, they are basically having corporate structure. They are promoted by basically well-educated people. So it comes ready for equity investment. But there is a huge pool of micro enterprises which are not corporatized. Basically, they are proprietary concerns, and many of them are doing so well. So how to bring those good micro enterprises to the ecosystem so that they could also be a beneficiary to the top-up capital of SRI fund. That would be perhaps one of the real contributions of SRI fund. And for that, I think a coordinated effort between the stock exchanges, SRI fund, bankers, mentors should be taken together. And what you said rightly, that these proprietary concern and these proprietors should distinguish between if business and themselves. So perhaps this is one challenge and risk which this fund would be facing going ahead, and that risk has to be prominently addressed to enhance and enlarge its coverage. The second important aspect is, and you see in recent past, the Government of India has been very proactive in launching several other sovereign funds. RDI fund has come in a very big way. The FFS2 has already come now. MSME growth fund has come. And if you see the capital leveraging in these funds is slightly different than the capital leveraging of SRI fund. So what happens generally, a fund manager is tending towards these funds, and therefore the difference in SRI fund going forward between the committed capital and the drawn capital would be mismatched. So perhaps if this top-up fund could be seen from that angle, that it is more aligned to the market, I think this would be one of the very good points to expeditiously drawing this capital for the larger benefit of the micro enterprises. The third important factor, which has been shared by several panelists, that equity need to be leveraged, and that leveraging would be through a debt. And good enterprises, one of the key aspect is that if they are doing good, their value should be protected and it should not be diluted with the successive raising of capital. So a suitable mix of debt product with the equity, if given to those enterprises which have already been covered under SRI fund, are those who are having this kind of potential, because there is a well-developed guarantee scheme for the startups launched by DPIIT, and these credits could be directly covered under that. And for the conventional industries, there is CGTMSE. So I think a combination of this equity and debt can definitely bring a much better desired result for the micro enterprises. And the last part which I would like to suggest in this, to reach out to the micro enterprises in real senses, that you see, what Madhav said, that the micro enterprises generally need some 50 lakh 1 crore rupees initially for the investment. And this kind of capital dispensation can be better done by the micro VCs. So a concerted effort should be made to develop an ecosystem of the first time fund managers in tier 2, tier 3 and other parts of the country with small corpus, where SRI fund could act as a anchor fund to such daughter funds. And the second important development which is taking place in the country is that the majority of the good incubation centers are launching their own AIF. So SRI fund could also act as an anchor to those incubation-led AIFs. So perhaps this would be one of the best model to dispense and reach out to the micro enterprises in the country. So I think if these things are taken into consideration, going forward, the risk for the fund deployment as well as for the investor and for the investee could be best managed. Thank you.
Yeah, very, very insightful, sir, very insightful. And I think those are well elaborated. In fact, as you were sort of elaborating your points, I was thinking that one of the key things we've seen when we invest in very young companies is they need not only mentoring and handholding, but they need domain expertise, because each domain is very different, each industry is very different. So perhaps one more point, if I may add from my end, is to say how does the SRI fund actually leverage the domain expertise and the handholding of, let's say, HNIs who may be investing or who may be guiding the companies, because then there is a risk mitigation there itself. So thank you very much. I think this was very, very interesting, and we've sort of come to a point, and I'm tracking the time, so I think we are just about hit the time line for the panel discussion. And I think we've covered a pretty 360-degree approach to the deployment of this 2,000 crore enterprises. But, panelists bring
I am not getting the audio.
I think I spoken. Ashish, you had a chance to, I didn't miss you out, right, on regional coverage?
And I did cover it.
Yeah, he covered it. No problem. So,
Ms. Padmaja, we can't hear you.
No audio, ma'am.
okay. We have a number of participants who have joined the session, and I think we have an advantage there of being able to get their perspectives. And what I thought I'll do is we have panelists who have come in with different perspectives. Perhaps by asking the active participant to ask a question, it will give us some more depth or another perspective to get elaborated in the session. So if I may actually ask Amit Sharma from Cactus Partners, are you there, Amit? Can we check if he has joined? Amit Mehta is later. Has Amit Sharma joined? Okay, let's not waste time. If he does, we'll bring him in. If I may, has Mr. Mustafa Ghaus joined?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Mustafa, I think you had a question. Would you like to ask the question?
Yes, absolutely. First of all, thank you for this lovely discussion, very insightful, and I think a lot of very valuable takeaways for the team to go back and work on. I think my question was more from a yes, in a way, selfish perspective. We work closely in emerging sectors. Our fund is focused on technology and fast-growing opportunities across sports, and we wanted to see whether there would be any specific interventions or the top-up scheme would look at to encourage some of these emerging sectors, as it's a strong push from a government and growth perspective as well.
It's yes, it is truly an emerging sector that's coming up. Akshay, you would probably have a good sense on how SRI is looking at this.
Thanks for the question, Mustafa. So I think from the SRI perspective, again looking at experience, I don't think we've actually been fairly sector agnostic. We've not we've looked across multiple sectors, technology interventions, old economy businesses, where technology is an enabler. I don't think we've shied away from any new sector. I think that philosophy will continue. I would assume that philosophy will continue under the top up as well. Given the recent past, the way the focus has been on technology and innovation, I would assume that that would be an increasingly larger focus for the top up. In sports specifically, you sort of have the privilege of being one of those few funds with a very distinctive approach or an investment thesis, and I think more such interventions would be welcome. I don't think there would be a challenge in that at all. And yeah, so I think from that perspective, we would be happy to look at and not be, we would be sector agnostic is what I would say.
Lovely, thank you.
Okay. I think if I may invite Mr. Kiran Kaluri. I thought I saw him on the...
Yeah. Thanks, Padmaja. Thanks everybody. Great inputs and insights. And great to see what all SRI 1.0 has achieved. My question probably is more towards Akshay, the CIO of this fund. So Akshay, as you would have seen, the world is undergoing a tectonic shift with AI impacting and disrupting many businesses across. Okay. Is there any plan to allocate a specific part of the top-up fund towards micro businesses which are helping solve this for the MSME sector? That's the first part. And in case that is not there, I think you answered a part of that in your earlier answer. If there is no specific allocation, is there any plan to provide technical assistance using some of the portfolio companies of daughter funds to help some of the MSME funds and do some amount of knowledge sharing within the ecosystem?
Sure. Thanks, Kiran. Thanks for that question. I think, like you said, some part of it got addressed in the previous question response to Mustafa. Just to take in what the second part of your question and just link it to what Madhav had brought up in the conversation that we had in the panel discussion, where there are these 70, 80 sort of ecosystem builder companies that are there already in the SRI ecosystem, and can we use that to leverage and in that supply chain or the value chain of the 70, 80 companies, there will be technology businesses, there will be enablers, technology enablers, there would be technology users who've been built up as part of the value chain. There could be, I think it definitely merits attention. can we create an allocation? Can we create something that can Government of India look at an allocation for technology focused businesses, keeping in mind that these 70, 80 companies already have used them or they're in the value chain at some point in time, and therefore it's been de-risked in some sense, right? It's not a very early stage risk. It's been de-risked, it's been used, it's been market accepted, and can we look at a capital intervention in those businesses? No, I think very valid point, and point to definitely consider and put into the design of the top up.
Thanks.
Yeah, and I would say it almost fits with the vision that we have of having a digital India. So thank you for that question, Kiran, and highlighting technology. Is Amit Mehta, has he joined? Has Amit joined?
Yeah, I'm there.
Okay, great. Amit, you had a question. Would you like to ask, please?
Yes. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Great to hear all the views on the panel. One of the things that was discussed a couple of times earlier in the panel was how the MSME companies that we fund as part of our portfolio sort of struggle to raise debt, and how debt can be an additional multiplier to the impact that these companies create on the ground. So my question is there any plan to sort of bundle maybe a soft loan, a working capital line, or maybe a credit guarantee kind of a thing along with the top up of the SRI fund?
Yeah, actually a very valid question, Amit, and it's almost been debt being partnered with this equity has been a constant point through the discussion. And I can't think of anyone better than Mr. Ashok Chandra if he would like to sort of pick up on this question.
Yeah, Mr. Amit, I think very valid point. And in fact, a bank like ours, we are looking for such opportunities to come in. In fact, we have started the startup branches exclusively funding for the micro sector, the startups. And any such opportunities are there, definitely bank is very keen to do the funding for that. See, today, a lot of credit guarantees are there. And in this particular activity in the MSME, CGTMSE coverage is already there. And that coverage, it is further enhanced from 5 crore to 10 crore. Even for a startup also, up to 20 crore, the credit guarantee is there. So today, environment is totally different. We are not looking for any collateral security, any sort of things now. If any proposal is there, good proposal is there, absolutely. And the thing is also totally digitized now. You need not submit any document, any manual papers now. We have the manual papers and manual systems totally we have dispensed with now. So if any opportunities are there, and any entrepreneur who is looking for a loan up to 25 lakh, straight away they can go to our PNB site or any of our branches. And through branches also, it will be done through only the digital tool now. So in fact, manually, we have totally stopped in the CBS. Nobody can process and sanction and disburse the loan in the branch now. So I think we have the business rule engine in place. And definitely, if any such things are there, all the participants who are there connected today, if anything is there, please come back to us and we will do the funding. Absolutely no issue in that.
Thank you. I think you've really eased it out for micro enterprises for sure. If I can invite Mr. Sudhir Mutalik from CII.
Yes.
If you have a question, we'd love to hear and see if we can respond to it.
Yeah. Madam, thank you so much for this opportunity. And I'm taking this, time. I'll be speaking not merely on my personal experience, but on behalf of a large number of MSMEs especially in the capital goods manufacturing ecosystem. I'm sharing an overall view and, of course, a few recommendations in the end. So I may take a little more time than 5 minutes that is allocated to me, and I request you to kindly accept.
Sir, if I may then request you that I bring in another participant who has a question. So we finish the questions part, And then if we have time, then we can have that, because the ministry has put tough deadlines on me, unfortunately.
Okay.
But let me just then finish the question part so that we have one part done. Thank you for, appreciate your adjustment.
Then, madam, then I can finish within 2-3 minutes. 4-5 recommendations.
Just give me 2 minutes. There's just one more question. Let's finish that and then I'll come back to you.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Is Nitin Sharma there?
I'm here, ma'am.
Okay. Would you like to ask your question, please?
Yes, thank you. It's great to be here. I'm really grateful to SRI and VCFL, but I also want to say a note of appreciation to some of the leaders of other entities who've been very helpful to our MSMEs, SIDBI, SEBI, but also PNB and SBI. My question is building upon the last topic. Is the top-up only for equity investment in micro SMEs, and what is the timeline for the deployment of this 2,000 crore? And I also had one last suggestion, which is, as the portfolio grows to a point where we have almost 1,000 MSMEs, I would also suggest that, one of the things we realized is entrepreneurs learn much more from other entrepreneurs than they do from investors. So could there also be some portal whereby these businesses could discover each other for business opportunities, sales, and guidance? But the first part is, what is the timeline for this deployment, and is there any scope for looking at anything beyond equity in micro SMEs? Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nitin. Thanks for the question. I'll try and have a stab at it. I think very clearly the budget announcement mentioned that this was equity support for micro enterprises. So I think that's the perspective that this specific intervention is looking at, please. This will be equity for micro enterprises. Whether it is pure equity, structured equity, that's potentially detailing that can happen out during the course of the design of the intervention, but largely equity for micro enterprises. In terms of the timeline, I would assume soonest. It needs to get set up and deployed soonest. Going from past experience, we've had about 2,000 crores of capital under the SRI fund deployed for the past 4-5 years. I think that there will be a requirement to accelerate that, and very clearly the view is to accelerate that to as soon as possible, that the top-up also gets deployed. I think it's something that we should definitely consider in terms of a timeline to accelerate deployment during the design itself. And I think a very valid point that you raised on creating a platform for cross sort of idea dissemination or customer outreach, or given that we will have close to 1,000 companies in the portfolio over time, it might make it very, very useful to create this cross-pollination in some sense of ideas and customers. And yeah, a very, very valid suggestion. We will take that on board. Definitely take it on board.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Akshay. Pradeep Mazumdar is there from Inflexo. Pradeep?
Yeah, good afternoon, ma'am.
Hi.
Hi.
Your question, please.
My question is on the micro SME side. Which are the key sectoral areas that we think we need to give more attention? Is it, medical devices and manufacturing, given that we are looking for self-resiliency, niche specialist manufacturing, both in the aerospace side, on the space tech side, or is there any other areas that there is a specific focus which is needed from our side?
Akshay, I think this is targeted. All the questions are actually targeted to Akshay. So one question I have before you answers, Akshay, how can you become more accessible?
Pradeep, I think, again, I think we've said this a couple of times during the discussion. I think technology will continue to play a very, very critical piece in the allocation. So therefore, we will look at technology sectors, be it medical devices, be it aerospace, be it anything to do with the technology sort of background will be looked at, I would assume, very positively. given the whole inclination towards creating advanced manufacturing, technology-led manufacturing enterprises that the government has. That's a bit of a short answer, Pradeep, but yes, technology is focused.
Sure. No, thank you to you and thank you to everybody, right? And thanks to SRI and SEBI and all the key stakeholders who are making it possible.
Thank you. I do hope I've now covered all the active participants. Okay, so Mr. Mutalik, would love to hear your perspectives. And then if you do have a question, feel free, but I think your perspectives.
Thank you so much, ma'am. The additional allocation of 2,000 crore to the Self-Reliant India Fund in the Union Budget 26-27, we consider is not merely a financial announcement, much awaited. I think it is a strategic reinforcement of India's long-term vision to build stronger, scalable, and globally competitive MSMEs. I am an MSME running my enterprise for last about 30 years. When the Self-Reliant India Fund was originally introduced under the Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative, it marked an important structural shift. I am, as I told, founder of a small manufacturing enterprise, especially into capital goods. I can see that for decades, MSME ecosystem in India has grown largely on the strength of debt. I mean, working capital limits, term loans, collateral backed lending. So debt has sustained enterprise survival, but I am experiencing sustainability and scalability are not the same. Survival is possible with debt. So I think debt helps MSME run, equity helps MSME rise. The original design of the fund, government anchored mother fund, catalyzing daughter funds, was intended to crowd private capital and deepen equity participation in growth oriented MSMEs. So the 2,000 crore top up signals policy continuity and confidence in in that model that really encourages us. It also complements that 10,000 crore SME growth fund, creating a capital continuum from emerging micro to scaling MSMEs. The continuum is particularly important for sectors such as manufacturing and capital goods, where scaling requires sustained investment in plant technology, quality systems, and global certifications. In deep manufacturing sectors, growth is capital intensive and also time intensive. Technology upgrades, automation, testing facilities, and compliance with international standards cannot be financed sustainably only through short-term debt. Structured equity becomes the foundation for long-term competitiveness. However, we look at the way forward, emphasis must now shift from allocation to effective and inclusion deployment. Micro enterprises face the most acute capital constraints. Many promising units remain structurally undercapitalized, so they normally get crowded out in formal financing systems. For such enterprises, access to structured equity funding is transformative, not merely supportive. In today's environment, competitiveness is capital intensive. Everyone wants us to be competitive, especially when we try to enter into the global on the global platforms, but it is highly capital intensive. Supply chains are aligning, ESG linked compliance requirements are increasing. Global buyers increasingly demand traceability, quality assurance, and sustainability benchmark. Smaller enterprises cannot meet these expectations without adequate risk capital. So capital depth determines our competitive depth. Therefore, I'm coming to the last point. While expanding the Self-Reliant India Fund, a few implementation considerations we feel can further amplify the impact. First of all, The inclusion must be intentional. Within the MSME spectrum, relatively larger enterprises often have better access to advisory networks and funding channels. Dedicated micro-specific eligibility frameworks and appropriate sub-allocation may help ensure that smaller enterprises are not unintentionally crowded out. Second, I think structuring matters. Many first generation entrepreneurs like me are cautious about equity dilution. Blended instruments such as optionally convertible, redeemable preference shares, or structured models where a portion of the entrepreneur's equity contribution is supported through long tenure mechanisms can reduce the resistance while strengthening capitalization. The third one is the capital must be linked with capability enhancement. Equity infusion should ideally be aligned with measurable competitiveness upgrades. Industry 4.0 adoption, digital accounting systems, automation, quality certification, export compliance, and of course ESG preparedness, like this. Capital should not only expand capacity, it should upgrade the capability. The next one, fourth one, is cluster based modernization initiatives can multiply outcomes. When manufacturing clusters upgrade collectively, adopting automation, common testing infrastructure, digital integration, and quality systems productivity gains and cost efficiencies improve sustainability. The last one, the fifth one, is equity expansion should implement credit reform, strengthening linkages with CGTMSE expansion, and promoting cash flow based lending using GST and transaction data can create a, a, a blended capital ecosystem. Equity and credit must reinforce each other. So I think if implemented with sectoral balance, patient capital horizons, structured outreach, and capability linked deployment, this initiative can significantly strengthen India's MSME growth and growth engine and contribute meaningfully to economic resilience. India, madam, does not lack entrepreneurship. India must now deepen, enterprise capital. Thank you so much for your time and patient listening, madam.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Your insights were all excellent.
Can I make a quick?
Yeah,
won't be more than 30 seconds. So I think when just adding on to it, the motive should be, instead of entrepreneur finding the fund should find the entrepreneurs. I repeat again saying that take the GST, data, there will be a lot of sparks across the sectors in recent 5-year companies who started filing, then scaling up their, performance. The GST is a real-time data. I mean, these are some of the things on top of the ecosystem that we have talked about, ecosystem builders. And when you correlate the data, you'll be looking at, ideas or the companies that have a lot of potential. I mean, if you can shortlist about 3,000-4,000 companies and proactively approach, sub 2 crore or 1.5 crore, which is not a very heavy risk also for the, SRA fund or the daughter fund. That should be a very big game changer for you to reach more than 1,000 to 2,000 startups at the earliest possible time, and find them when they are young, invest so that they can become some of the most promising companies in the
Thank you.
next 5-10 years.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to just quickly wrap up. I wanted to first sort of try and summarize. I think this has been one of the very engaging and learning and enlightening discussion. We've had, I'm so sorry. We have panelists here with years of experience who are investors, regulators. SEBI is here. we have we have a bank, so we have the debt perspective, and most importantly, we have a founder. So I think we've got a pretty holistic kind of ecosystem represented here. I think what I gathered from this session is how can we accelerate and increase economic inclusion, catering to the country's strategic imperatives in a digital mode. I think that was, to me, the headline of this discussion. It would need some change in parameters. For example, the 3 years requirement may need to be relooked at, the frameworks and operating processes. I think blended funding, how we leverage equity for debt, was a common refrain. I think one of the things this discussion really highlighted was the identified outcomes that this top-up could look at. And how do we leverage private capital? How do we leverage expertise, domain expertise, bring in mentoring for the founders? And finally, what are the risks and how could we risk mitigate? I think structurally, the SRI fund and hopefully the top-up would follow that, would also have a daughter fund syndrome. And I think SEBI has been very, very evolving right through the last few years. And the role is absolutely commendable. So collectively, I think we may have come to a point how we could help structure the fund in a way that most of these, if not all, are sort of adhered to. I really want to thank the panelists, but last but not the least, I think it brought a lot of focus and clarity from the questions that our active participants asked. I think we all had those top of the mind questions. And thank you for asking them, because while you got a response, I'm sure many of us also got a response which was in our mind. On that note, I want to thank everybody. Thank you for your time. Thank you for contributing to this discussion, and really appreciate your insights. And hopefully the ministry can take this forward with clarity. Thank you. We'll close this session.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.